Hey, I'm Scott. I'm the CEO of Git Butler, and I also happen to be a certified wine expert. Today on Bits and Booze, we're going to go over the top Git Stack Overflow questions. Strap in. Hello, welcome to Bits and Booze. My name is Scott. I have with me here, once again, Mattias from Git Butler. We are going to be talking about bits and drinking some booze. So for the bits part, we're going to be doing the same thing that we did last time, going through Stack Overflow questions, seeing if you can stump me with stuff that people don't know about Git on the internet. And we're going to be drinking beer again. So again, this is a non-drinking month for me, so I'm going to go with a non-alcoholic beer, and we're going to give you the alcoholic version of the same beer, and we're going to see which beer is better. So you can try both of them. So this time we have Corona, beer from my home country. Not really. Do you like Corona?
I do like Corona. Do we have lime?
Do we have lime?
Does Mandarin work the same?
It does not.
No.
If you want me to get you a Mandarin, can we get him a Mandarin? I think beer openers in Germany are illegal. That was Jesus. So we don't have a lime, but we do have a Mandarin. So if you want to try that out,
Let's pop it in
just
there.
go ahead
See what
and
happens.
But you try it first, and then I'll try mine. That's not bad, actually. I don't hate that.
I think I can taste.
I don't hate that. Okay, so now that we got the booze out of the way, let's get to the bits part. We're gonna go again through some Stack Overflow stuff. You've chosen some humdingers.
I'm ready to go with a question that I have the worst answer to.
Oh, okay.
Oh. How do I find and restore a deleted file in a Git repository? And if you don't mind, could I start this by explaining how I do it?
Yeah.
I literally type git log-p. I search for a thing that I remember was in the file, and then I see a red section, and there's lots of leading minus signs, right? So what I do is I select that whole thing, I paste it into VS Code, and line by line, I remove the hyphens. And I know that's a terrible answer.
To restore the file?
To restore a file, yes.
Oh.
I know it's crazy, but that is actually how I do it.
Okay.
So I would look, I am very interested if you could help me find a better way.
So there's two questions. One is, how do you find a commit that has the old file in it? And then the other is, how do I restore that file, the file contents? So the second part is easier. The first part, I don't know if it works to give a path spec to git log for a file that doesn't exist in your working directory right now. But normally you can say git log dash dash and then a file name, a path to a file.
Right.
It'll only show you the commits that touch that file, right?
Right.
So I'd have to try this. I actually don't know if that works. If you know content in it, then the easiest thing to do is git log dash S, and then type in some string you know was in that file, and then it will only show you stuff that added or removed that string, right?
What is dash S?
Dash S is
Capital S?
They call it pickaxe, which is it essentially it looks for additions or deletions that match a regular expression. So you can say and it can be it added it to the file or it removed it from a file in the thing. So if you know it's in the file somewhere, then you can do that. You might be able to do just here's the file path, and it'll show you the last commit would be the one that removed it.
I think I'm learning something already here.
Yeah.
What I just said I do is I do dash P, but that effectively means
well, that shows you the whole patch on everything.
I do a search across every change that ever happened.
The best thing to do, if you're doing that, you do git log dash S, and then give it a string or a regular expression.
And I'll see only commits that have either added or removed something.
In the diff. I mean, the other thing you probably could do is run like, if it doesn't work with the path, do git log dash stat that shows you all the files it touched. And then look through that output for a file path.
Right.
But I'm pretty sure you can give git log a file path that doesn't exist, and it'll say here's the ones that added or removed that. So that's how you find the commit. Once you find the commit that remove the file, then you look at the parent of that, right? That still had the file in it.
Right.
And then you can do again, we're going to get into the commands that exist now and the ones that I would do. So the ones that I would do is run git checkout and then give it a path. So if you say git checkout and then a SHA of a commit, and then you do -- to say after this is coming paths, and then you give it one or multiple file paths, it will take that file and it'll check it out into your working directory as it was in that commit. So whatever snapshot you want, you say take this file and put it here. So it's git checkout SHA file path.
So let's say that it wasn't a deleted file. Let's say that it was like a deleted class or a deleted function. And I can, with my very archaic method of finding this deleted hunk. Is there so I like hit /, I do the find, I see it visually on my screen. Is there a better way for me to like restore that content I'm looking, this like deleted hunk, other than copy paste, delete the hyphens manually?
The second part of my thing there was that I use checkout, but there's also a command called git restore that now does the same thing. So they kind of split checkout into switch that switches branches and restore that restores files, because it can do either. I believe git restore has the -p option, which is patch, right? So you can say git restore -p this file from this SHA, and then it'll say, do you want me to apply this hunk? Do you want me to it's like git add -p, right? But it does it the opposite way. I'm 90% sure that works. I would really have to look at the man page, but I'm pretty sure that actually does work.
I think I would feel more comfortable with that command while somebody's looking over my shoulder than the visual.
I mean, it's exactly like that. It's like this patch, do you want me to apply that? And you're like, yep, and then it restores that.
All right, I'll try that next time. We might have to define the question before we answer it, but on Stack Overflow, with an impressive 2,177 votes, how do I fix a detached head?
A detached head just means I'm not on a branch. So it checked out something, and head is pointing at a particular commit rather than a reference. And so I think if you commit, it would probably just update that what head is pointing to be a different detached head. But there's no reference that's moving around with you, right? So you fix it by checking out a branch, right? So you fix it by saying git switch some branch, and
I'm wondering if there's an underlying question here, which is that people who are new to Git, whenever they see detached head on their screen, I think that's a moment of confusion.
Right.
And I'm wondering if there's any way we can sort of like...
The reason why it exists is when you're rebasing something, right? And so because when you're rebasing something and you have 5 commits and you want to do some interactive thing and you want to go back 4 commits and fix that, then it kind of puts you into like edit mode, right? Like Git Butler has like this edit mode where you can say like, check out this commit, let me fix it, and then continue. And then rebase everything that was above it. But you're not on a branch, right? Because you're kind of in this special state where you're on one commit and you're trying to change that commit. And then you continue, right? And so then you fix it or whatever, and then you do rebase continue, and then it keeps going.
So let's pick this apart a little bit further. Could the source of confusion be related to terminology? What is it that is actually meant by detached head?
It means you're not on a branch.
Not on a branch? It means you are on a commit.
It means you're on a commit. You have a commit directly checked out that you're working on. And so you can replace it with a new commit, and then you fix something up and you commit, and then you run rebase -- continue or something, and it goes back. But like there's no branch where you are, right? And you're not committing to advance that branch. You're committing to kind of replace that one commit with a different one, and then you cherry pick everything else, right, and move the branch that way.
Detached doesn't mean much to me. Nor does head, because like you're saying, you're on a specific commit, and that commit could be like from a year ago. And so like when you hear the word head, you feel like, this is something recent. And detached also feels like it's a misnomer.
Head in Git it's a pointer to the commit that will be the parent of the next one that you do. Head normally points to a branch, and then when you commit, that branch moves forward. And whatever that branch was pointing at when you commit, that's going to be the parent of the next one that you make, right? So that's how it knows what the parent is, and then that's what it moves when it moves forward. If you're not on a branch, you've just checked out something to edit it, then it's like, okay, well, what detached head means is head is not pointing at a branch, so Git's not going to operate the way that you expect it to, right? And so you need to be aware of that. Detached head is it's an old terminology that most people don't understand, because you have to know what head means and kind of how Git works. What it really means is you are not on a branch right now, so be careful what you do, because it's not going to operate the way that you expect it to.
I am not sure that I've ever had the need to do this, and again, we might want to actually look deeper at what do they mean with this question. But how would you merge two different Git repositories?
So it depends on how you want to do that. You can use filter repo, which we talked about before, to kind of come up with a way to kind of graft one onto another one.
So filter repo not only filters, but it can also do...
Filter repo just does mass rebases, right? Or like mass rewriting of commits to do something different. So you can take a file out of every commit that it sees that file in or whatever. It just rewrites every commit. So you can graft, you can say like, I want this one to be part of this one sort of permanently, or you can do like subtree merges where it's like, I want this repository to be a subdirectory of this repository in every commit, right? Or from these commits on, and so it rewrites it to be like a subdirectory of that every time through, and so filter repo can do stuff like that too.
And so you're saying filter repo could sort of I'm not sure what the correct word is, splice together, interleave. You could take two different histories and sort of interleave them with each other so that it looks like this had only one single history.
Yeah, it depends on what you want the commit messages to look like, right? Because that becomes difficult. If you have like, if you just want to kind of, like, you can like do a merge of two things where...
If it was two separate projects, you're trying to create a monorepo from n different projects that actually have no files in common.
I would look at filter repo if you want to do that type of thing, right? To say, I want the histories of both, right? So if I hit a blame on a file, it goes to the commit that introduced that on either of the repositories. You can kind of interleave the thing, or you can create a base commit that neither of them had in common and rewrite all of them so that there was one sort of, it looked like two completely separate ones and then they merged at some point. But it depends on what you're trying to accomplish. Most likely, filter repo is kind of how you would do that, but it becomes super complicated.
So given the prevalence of this question, because it feels like it does come up, what is the classic use case for questions like this? What do you think people are trying to accomplish? Is this like hobby projects? Is this like more corporate projects?
I mean, I think it's usually more corporate projects where they say, we have a new way that we want to start working. And so that requires, like you're saying, like a monorepo. But we still want the histories of these, right? And so clearly you can just copy the files into the thing. But if you run a blame, then you just start there. That's the oldest thing that you can really do, right? And so that becomes difficult. So I still want to have the history for a blame or I mean, usually for a blame, right? I want to see kind of who last edited these lines in a real way. And so not lose that, but be able to now have one repository that you can work with as a monorepo.
What does cherry picking a commit even mean?
I mean, so...
And can I just preface this with like, I work at Git Butler. I am not so sure I understand what the difference is between cherry picking and sort of merging. Like, I feel like sometimes the two feel interchangeable in my head.
A rebase is a scripted series of cherry picks.
Right, okay.
So if you rebase one branch onto another branch, it's functionally the same as saying, I'm just going to cherry pick each of these in order.
Okay.
And that kind of...
So that's functionally the same.
Yeah.
Is there a scenario in which they are not functionally the same?
I don't think so. I haven't gone into exactly how rebase is implemented, but at least initially it was a scripting of a series of cherry picks, right? Where you're cherry picking these as though they're sort of patches and applying them to another branch head. So a cherry pick is extracting the difference between that a commit introduces and then applying that as though it were a patch onto another tree.
Can I git stash a specific file? I think when I try to do that, just like from muscle memory, I kind of fail.
Yes, you can. I also don't know off the top of my head. I think you have to do git stash push and then give it a file path.
Push?
Push. Yeah, pushes onto the stack.
To the stack, right.
But I'd have to look that up too. I think it's git stash push, and then you can also do like git stash push dash p and stash like git add dash p and do patch-wise, like just stash these individual hunks.
Yeah, I think this might actually hint at the sort of root of the confusion. You say git stash push, which suggests that stashes are part of a stack, and now we're using a lot of words that begin with S. And I think maybe that's why I'm getting confused.
Well, so stash is a stack, right? So every time, I think by default, when you run git stash, it runs git stash push, but you can leave it off. But if you give it options, I believe you have to put that in there. I also could be wrong about that. But you can also do like git stash pop, right? And that pops it off. If you do git stash list, it'll show you here's the last 20 stashes you had.
Right.
And you can take. It doesn't have to be the last one, right? It's a stack of stacks.
So now,
stack of stashes. Stash stack.
A stack of stashes, and I feel like that begs the question in my head. I'm suddenly wondering if it was intentionally made a stack and you can pop and push. Was there an initial functional reason why you made it a stack rather than...
It's just so you can have a lot of them. There's no, I mean, and usually you're working with the last one.
Yes.
But again, you can do git stash list and then git stash apply and then a specific one somewhere in the stack. Like git stash apply will just apply the stash as though it was sort of a series of patches or like a patch. Git stash pop will take the last one off, right? So you don't have it anymore because you're just kind of throwing it on there and then popping it back off, as opposed to applying something. So it's still in your history, right? Your stashes.
I wonder if there's something. I wonder if there's something in here because I think the vast majority of developers are probably familiar with stash, with like stash save, stash apply, but only from the frame of reference. Like there was something I was doing and I want it back. And I think when you go one step beyond that and you ask about, well, what's the second last thing you stashed? I think that's where people get a little uncomfortable.
Yeah, you can do
they have
list.
to look at the manual.
You can also do like git stash with description, so you know what you were doing at the time. And then when you do git stash list, you can see descriptions next to each of them of like, this was my work in progress of this or something like that. But really, it's basically a commit. Like it basically commits it and then just puts it somewhere that isn't a branch, right? And into this sort of special stash branch log.
Right, and this sounds, to me, this sounds incredibly useful. I only ever use it for like the last thing I did.
Yeah.
And I think it begs the question in my head, like, well, is there a usability problem here? Like, why does a person like me, who have been using Git for a long time, why do I feel an aversion? Because it sounds like an incredibly powerful tool. Like you have these sort of patches and you're like, actually, I don't want this right now, but I might want to retrieve it in the future. To me, I would like, it sounds like a feature that is useful and that I should use more. And I'm sort of wondering, like, do you have any intuition as to why is it an underused feature?
I mean, it's a way of getting around, having a clean working directory for operations that need a working directory. So it depends on what you're trying to do. Like you can stash in order to save work, but you can also create a temporary branch and commit it there and then come back to it, right? Yeah. It's just a way of doing a commit. A commit is the only way you can really save information in Git. So you have to either commit it or stash, which is essentially a commit that just puts it in a different space.
Yes.
So do you want to keep your work in progress? Because I'll do this a lot, right? I'll do, like I said in the previous episode, I would do a work in progress commit to save, and then maybe another one to save, and then you have these save points or whatever, and then you can get back to them and you can extract patches, you can cherry pick them or whatever. But a stash is basically just committing to a branch you don't see.
Yeah.
And then an apply or a pop is saying, let's cherry pick that onto what I have right now and not commit. Right. So it's just taking that and putting it in your working directory and being like, okay, now you can commit it here if you want to. But like all of that, it's the same thing, right? It's doing a commit somewhere and having some pointer to it that you can get back to later.
Next we're gonna, I feel like with this question we could go like slightly deeper than the previous question.
Okay.
And it's actually a question that has some relevance to Git Butler.
Okay.
The title of the question is, how do I delete all Git branches which have been merged?
That's an easy one.
The easy one?
Yeah.
I feel like the answer that we have in the code is a lot more complicated than easy.
all the Git branches, all the local Git branches that have been merged.
Let's talk through this.
If you run git branch -- merged,
yes,
it will list out every branch that is reachable from whatever branch you're currently
Well,
in.
okay, this was a pointless question then. Let's move on.
No, I mean, it's a good question if you don't know it. Like a lot of people don't know that it's actually been a normal part of my workflow, right?
Yes.
Or when I was using Git on the command line mostly.
Yes.
Now, obviously, I use Git Butler. But you would say I would have all these sort of branches sitting around.
Yeah.
And so you do Git every once in a while, you have to check out master, right? And make sure it's up to date. Because if you're on a topic branch, there'll be stuff that is merged, but you don't see necessarily.
Right. Yes.
So you check out master and you pull and you make sure you're up to date, and then you say git branch -- merged, and it will only list out stuff that is already reachable from the branch you have.
Right.
And then you can actually, I don't know if you can say -- merge -d and have it delete all of those. I actually don't know if it will do that. What I would do is just run it through exargs, git branch -d or something.
So maybe if we were a little less literal about things being merged, and we asked the question like, how can you delete all branches that have been rebased onto master? Does the answer as simple, or does it get more complicated?
No, I mean, it would be the same thing. It's everything reachable. So whether it was rebased or whether it was merged, if the branch pointer points at a commit that is reachable in the history of master, it'll show up, and then you can delete it safely because you don't need that branch pointer anymore. If you have a local branch and it was rebased on the server.
Right, correct.
Right, so that's different. If you rebase it locally, then your head moves. If you rebase it on the server and then pull it down, then it can be very difficult to figure out which branches have been rebased on the server, right? Because the SHAs change and your head doesn't necessarily move.
And we can make it more complicated.
In fact, I'm really curious if GitHub does that. So it depends on the forge how they handle a rebase, right?
Yeah.
If you rebase a PR or something.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, GitHub, at least the way that I normally have it configured, is it deletes the branch after it's rebased or merged.
Yes.
A PR.
But you might not know about that locally.
So you won't, because it'll be deleted on the server. So when you fetch, it won't update. It won't give you an updated reference, right? That you can say, okay, this branch is now rebased. So update your reference. So it will be yours will be orphaned, and you won't see it in the history by SHA.
And I think we can go a little far deeper down this rabbit hole and also ask the same question, but instead of rebased, we now squash commits.
Right.
And so you have effectively all the changes.
That's even worse. So
even worse.
There's no built-in way to get to do this, right? Of looking for, has this branch been integrated?
Right.
If it was squashed or rebased somewhere else, and then I don't have that reference.
Yes.
What we do in Git Butler to try to detect that is essentially to do a in-memory merge and see if I try to merge this branch that's already been rebased into mainline, it should introduce nothing. Right. And so if that merge comes out with the same tree that we started with, then that's already been integrated and we can get rid of it. We can determine that that's been integrated. And it's the same with a squash. If you do a squash, it doesn't really matter. Like, however that tree gets integrated, if all of that work is already here, then a merge is a no-op, right? Like there's nothing that it modifies anymore. And so that's how we say, okay, this is an integrated branch. So we can do that. It's a little bit special and difficult.
Right.
And the other way you could do it is to try to look for, we can also look for change IDs because we inject change IDs into the header. And so even when you rebase, we still have the change IDs. And so we can say, okay, these ones exist, but the SHAs change, so you can't do that with SHAs.
I feel like it's relevant to most newcomers. The question is, how can I save a username and password in Git? If I go to github.com and I'm not logged in, and I say I want to clone this repository, it'll give me an HTTPS address, right? And so there is no SSH keys that will automatically authenticate you. This might be a private repository.
I see. So not in Git, not in the Git data, but
well,
in the Git system.
I actually don't know what the answer is. So I wouldn't be able to say, is it in the Git data? Is it outside of Git? Like, how do these mechanisms, like what options do you have?
Git credentials is a way that Git can store your username and password for various types of things that it's normally the HTTP work that it does.
Yep.
I think it can also do SSH take where SSH ask pass type stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like if there's a password for your SSH key that you need to unlock it, and it can store it in keychain, like Mac keychain or something like that. So there's a Git credentials thing that you can set up to say, this is my credential manager.
Right. Git credential helper.
Your credential helper, right?
Yes.
And so there's 100 different ways of kind of setting this up, and I have gotten so I use 1Password actually as my credential helper, and I keep my SSH keys in there, and so it will ask me like I need a fingerprint or whatever to like unlock this thing, and then Git will use that in order to use SSH.
Do you keep your SSH keys in 1Password, or do you keep the password for your keys in 1Password?
I keep my SSH keys in 1Password, and then it'll unlock with my fingerprint.
Interesting.
But you can, another common thing is to use HTTP for sort of pushing and pulling. And that's a bit of a pain. You can keep that in plain text in your git config file, actually, if you want to keep your password in plain text in a git config file, which is totally doable. You can also add extra headers and stuff in your git config file if you're using something that's not GitHub or something like has like a weird, I need to send a HTTP header token for an authentication thing. So there's lots of different ways of doing that. I think the safest one, the best one, is to use the credential helpers in Git and set that up with whatever credential helper, with macOS keychain or with 1Password or whatever you want. And there's a bunch of tutorials on kind of how to set that up, but it entirely depends. I don't even know how you would do that in, like, I haven't used Windows in a long time, but I'm sure it has some sort of keychain credential thing for storing secrets.
Sounds likely.
Encrypted.
What's the difference between git add-a and git add dot?
There's a couple of, so git add dot will, git add-a, shit.
Come on, you can do it.
So one of them will add, so git add dot will add new files and untracked files, but it will not add removed files. It will not remove files from the index.
Can you say that one? It will not add.
So if you remove a file,
yes,
and you run git add dot,
right,
I don't believe it, and it was added to the index. I don't believe it will remove it from the index.
Right.
Right.
Because it's like the
and
dot
I think
sort of
git add dash capital A will remove shit. It has something to do with that. There's a thing with removed files. Yes. There's a thing with untracked files, and then normal files.
Right.
And git add dot does two of them. Git add dash A does two of them, and git add dash U does two of them, but like a different combination of them, I believe. So I think git add dash A is, I don't know. I actually don't know.
It sounds likely. It reminds me of.
So yeah, dot is saying, just pretend like I had run git add on every file in the directory, right? And git add dash A actually looks at the difference between the index and the directory and tries to make it match. Yeah. But I think I don't know if it adds untracked files or not. So I think it does.
That might be the dash U option then.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Whatever. Who cares? It's stupid. God damn it. I can't believe I got stumped by git add. Thanks for coming on the show. I hope we answered some questions. We got stumped by the dumbest thing at the very end. I got to look that up now. Now I don't even know. Okay.
All right.
Thanks for coming to Bits and Booze. Thank you, Mattias.
Thank you.
We'll see you next time. Subscribe.